speaking of rough ones, we have been watching. Yeah, it's good. We've all seen Barbie, and well, it's become an absolute behemoth at the box office. It's currently sitting at $472 million worldwide, according to Box Office Mojo. This movie is well on its way to making $1 billion. I'm going to hold my hands up. Couldn't have called it. I did not predict this. It's a strange world that we live in. It really is. But having seen it, gentlemen, how did you find it? Were you entertained? Was it as enjoyable a feminist comedy as some people seem to think it was?
Discovering I was naive to ever have assumed that I was going to get something like Small Soldiers, but for girls, which would have been something. Do you guys remember the Malibu Stacy? No, that's Simpsons. Who the Wendy? I think they are in Small Soldiers. The little Barbie dolls that get experimented on and turned into like soldiers. But beggars can't be choosers with films, and so I ended up watching a film that I never could have predicted would have been written the way it was, and then I come out of it and I'm like, all right, that was that. And then I start hearing people thought it was funny. I was like, shit, I'm in the wrong dimension again. Because that happens every once in a while. We've all been there.
Well, we all cross over into different dimensions,
And then I was told,
this, and away you go.
The film has loads of heart. And I was like, no, how could you say that? Don't invent organs. That's just fucked up. And then, of course, on top of all that, I get told, you know what? Made some interesting points. I was like, all right, I'm out. That's it. I'm done.
I'm just out of the human race now. I'm done.
Interesting doesn't mean good.
Yeah.
It really was like crossing into another dimension too, because like at the worst, when I was going into it, I was like, oh, it's a feminist movie. Like men have their areas, and that's totally cool. And I'm seeing it because it's my job. But it was like peeling behind the curtain of like, this is what you guys talk about, like as a feminist movement. Like it's just like a man-hating event. It was weird.
It was people often talk about like, oh, the mask slipped with this one, and it's just, the whole conspiracy thing. But this, it's like they just took the mask straight off, and let you see the horrifying monster that lay beneath it, like right from the first frame of that movie, and just never let up. And I just never expected it to be this blatant and this upfront about what it was and how much it hates men. Like, it was genuinely surprising. I never saw that coming.
As much as there was horrifying creatures in the film, they provided a knight in shining armor to the audience. He didn't make it in the end. He didn't quite come through, but I was rooting for him in the movie.
This was like a One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest kind of scenario here. Like, Ken was the absolute hero of this one. He just got destroyed by the system.
Yeah.
Horrible. Absolutely horrible movie. And the people saying like, oh, well, it's actually a subtle critique of modern feminism because, you get the woman who, I think the mother who sits down and has that big old moan about everything that's so difficult about her life. It's like, it's so hard to be a woman. Like, you can't be too skinny, but you can't be too fat, but you can't be too skinny either. And people judge you constantly. And, it's like, is this what it is? Is it just a therapy session where they just want to complain constantly? But then as I was watching it, I was thinking, man, most of these issues that you're highlighting don't come from men. They come from other fucking women. Like, the people that are most likely to judge you and put you down and make you feel insecure about yourself is probably not going to be men because they're just not that interested. They're not that aware. It's other women constantly putting you down. Like, if you want to look for the source of your problems, look in the fucking mirror. But, like, the movie doesn't even have that level of self-awareness. It's so bizarre.
There was a tweet I saw once that was like, so easy for men to go out on the town and stuff because they can wear the same outfit every fucking night. It doesn't matter. Women, on the other hand, we have to wear a new one every time. And then there was a response like, men couldn't give less of a fucking shit if you wear a good dress every single time the same one. We don't care. It's the women who care. Like, they're the ones that go, you're wearing the same dress? Oh my God.
Like, why are we getting tarred with this brush? It's like, we're not causing your problems. We're not even, like, most of the time, we're not even aware of these things. We don't notice things like the way you do. But it's like, we're somehow getting lumped in with this. It's weird.
Well, and it comes from such a Los Angeles, Southern Californian perspective, too. So, I mean, I can't imagine how this plays out in the rest of the world. But you know what? It's It was a movie made for woke white women, and there's plenty of them, and they made a lot of money. But for anybody who claims to be based and walks out of this movie going, "Oh, it's fine, it was funny. There's no problems with it." Are you kidding me? This thing could have been like you mentioned, normal, like Clueless or Legally Blonde, two funny movies, right? That's what I thought it was going to be. I kind of thought it would do well. I didn't think it would do this well, and it had a lot of opportunities to be that, and it wasn't. I talked about it before we started the show. It reminded me a lot of The Boys. A lot of people they take shots at both sides, and that's why. Like, for one, they don't take shots at both sides in Barbie. They just don't. And Boys, I think Ryan put it best. When they take shots at the right, it's with lead. When they take shots with the left, it's like with a water pistol. I mean, that's pretty much what this film is. But there's definitely a market for it. That's undeniable. You know, and honestly, if there's going to be a bunch of intersectional feminism, I'd rather be in a Barbie movie than anything else, than Rings of Power or Star Wars. Because it obviously can work in one thing, but it doesn't work in others. Now, I don't know how much it'll work going on, because I thought the first third of the movie was fine. It wasn't great, but I'm like, okay, I chuckled a couple times, but then as soon as they get in the real world, it digresses into just garbage.
The first third of the movie was kind of like what I expected the movie would have been upon first seeing that there's a Barbie movie, right? Barbie's living her happy little life. She's having a good time. The Kens are a bunch of mimbos. And that's all well and good, pretty silly. And then she starts to discover that, she's aging, she's being used, right? Things aren't all well and good. So it could even be something like Toy Story, right? Or maybe Toy Story 3, I guess, where the toys have to grapple with, what comes next. But obviously it devolved well beyond that.
Yeah, like this never really deals with the whole toy aspect of it. Like, the closest you get is just the fact that they get played with in the real world and it can physically damage them in Barbie World, like whatever. But then that doesn't even hold up because it only applies to certain people apparently. So whatever. Like, there's no internal logic to this.
Showering in Barbie World has no water. It's like, see, it's like dolls. You're like, okay.
And then it's really unclear, like, the whole, like, okay, do they have, like, reproductive organs or not? Like, because, like, how do you exist in the real world if you don't have them? Like,
I guess they ship the Barbies over to Barbie Land every time they make a new one, even though that would never make any sense. Like, Barbie Land should be filled with fucking hundreds of thousands of dolls.
It should, and, like, if it did reflect what happens to them in the real world, like, some of them would just suddenly get crushed or set on fire or, like, eaten by a dog or whatever. Like, it would just, it would be horrific. But none of that happens.
Like, people could be like, why are you even talking about this? Mechanics of Barbie Land. It's like, they fucking told me what they were and they were stupid. They could have just not had anyone talk about it. Because Barbie Land could have been a protected area of a different dimension that Mattel looked after. If you remember, there's even a line where a guy's like, so is this an alternate dimension? Is this a place you can go if you go really far? And then they just go, yeah. Like, the joke, of course, from Greta Gerwig at that point is, whatever the hell you need to think it is what it is. But it's like, yeah, but you keep telling me what it is, and it's stupid as fuck.
So, someone always takes it to a dark place.
Oh, no.
Wait till you see my review, boy.
Oh, God.
As you've highlighted, Drinker, if it worked the way they said, then it would be a nightmare world. They'd be torn to shreds, most of the dolls in Barbie World.
Yeah. But it always feels like it's undercutting its own message, and it doesn't really know what it wants to say. Like, Barbie meets the girl that supposedly plays with her, and she's like a fucking anarcho-communist feminist activist because of course she is. And she's like, oh yeah, you're a symbol of consumerism and capitalism, and you ruined, like, the feminist movement and all that garbage.
But also, I stopped playing with you when I was 5.
Yeah. But it's like, they're shitting on their own product, but they then don't know what to do with that going forward. They don't know how to resolve that plot arc. And it's the same with the Mattel guys. Like, they're these ridiculous caricatures of human beings who don't understand how turnstiles work or anything. But, like, they're aware that the fucking Barbie world exists in this alternate dimension, and you can travel back and forth from there. And apparently it's happened before that this shit goes on.
Yeah.
Why? Like, why put this in the movie?
Well,
It doesn't.
it gets especially weird when he's like, "We got to do something about it because untold things that you could never imagine will go wrong," and then he's told, "Actually, this is working out. The Ken Casa House Moto Dojo thing, it's actually selling off the shelves." And then he's like, "No,
does
this
Barbie
is bad."
World somehow influence the real world as
I
well?
have no clue.
Yeah.
So,
because
if
the
you
real
invent
world
something in
isn't-
that world, does it just suddenly spring into
Well,
existence as a
right.
new toy line in the real world?
In the
Remember,
real world, like it doesn't even. You can't even separate it from Barbie Land because it's so ridiculous in the real world too. They're like you were saying, the Mattel guys are caricatures of real human beings.
I think, well, but like they even have like a scene that's devoted to basically letting the audience know they're pretty sexist at Mattel. Those guys, they don't hire women, and the fact that he was like, "We've had 2 women before," and just like they're trying to do an implication of it. But then they later have Will Ferrell say that he can't stand Ken outselling Barbie because that's bad for women or whatever. That we need to. And I was just like, "What? I don't understand. What's the
Yeah, it's
character?"
like what are you trying to make this character into? It's the same with the message of like, well, if you're a man in this world, then you just get everything handed to you on a plate, and then you get Ken who tries to like get all these high flying jobs, like he wants to be an executive, he wants to be a doctor, he wants to be a lifeguard, and like he's told by every person like, no, you're not qualified, you have to work to get this, you have to earn it.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, how are you? the whole like section here is predicated on this idea that the patriarchy exists and it does nothing but oppress women and elevate men beyond their competency and just gives them things automatically. But like everything you're showing us is the exact opposite. It's telling you, you have to earn everything. You actually have to work for it. So all the guys that are in these positions earned them by going to college, by getting training, by learning things, by working their way up. You're undermining your own message yet again. It's like the movie doesn't fucking understand what it's even trying to say or how.
The message is women do things and they don't get credit for them all the time. Okay. And then Barbie gets a vagina at the end.
Yay!
Yay.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Interesting point you made though, Gary. Like it's in some ways, is it good to just see this shit contained within a girly movie in a way? And I suppose yes, and it perhaps explains why they've tried to shove this stuff into traditionally male-dominated genres, like whether it be Star Wars, Star Trek, Doctor Who, whatever. Like most of those things are, and people are going to go nuts over this, but it's fucking true. It's mostly guys who watch that stuff. It's mostly guys who are into that stuff. Not all, but mostly. And so you bring that feminist, intersectional stuff into it, it's never going to find a footing because the guys are just not going to embrace it. But here you found fertile ground because it's a movie marketed to and for women. And so, okay, fine. I guess you can understand why it's such a massive hit because those are the people going to see it. And man, hats off to the marketing guys because they pulled an absolute blinder on this one. They somehow made everyone want to see this movie. It became an event. I don't know why, but it somehow is.
It's better than the Black Panther marketing, which I thought previously was the best marketing of all time because it made it a cause. It's you are fighting racism if you see Black Panther and give Disney money.
Yep.
So
well, what they did here was they advertised it kind of like Super Mario Brothers, where it's supposed to be like this harmless thing. And even if you dislike, in big, bold, pink letters in the trailer, it said, if you love Barbie, you'll love this movie. If you hate Barbie, you'll love this movie. It was like inviting people along to come and see it because it's just going to be a harmless little romp on a IP everyone recognizes, whether you're a boy or girl. And it's hilarious too because like the ending, it kind of it's like obligatory in the way that it's kind of like, oh, we kind of like equality. And like, F gender roles, but in reality, it just reinforced gender roles with like 73% of the audience being female.
yeah,
That was hilarious.
They let the Kens have one guy on the Supreme Court, okay?
No, it was a lower circuit court.
It was a
Lower
circuit
second.
court.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
that's
it's
all
like-
they should get. All
You're
right?
not going to get too much power. You're not actually going to get to influence
and they
anything.
said that it's to equal the real world, right? Even
Right, so
though
it's not about
they're
equality,
female.
it's about revenge. So like we're actually
Yes.
avenging like 1920s stuff, not anything modern.
I heard this described as cultural revenge, and I thought that's a pretty apt
That's a
description.
pretty accurate
for
term.
what
That's
this
what's been
is.
going on, by the way. And all of this stuff is cultural revenge. It is not equality.
It's never about
Yeah.
equality, it's about revenge.
Yeah, the very much the mindset that seems to be driving this is we've had it tough for a long time, and it's your turn now. you're going to suffer, and we're going to make sure that you do.
Man, I had it it's so great being a dude. I just get given everything when I wake up in the morning. It's fantastic.
My butler comes in with my breakfast.
Yeah.
Would you like another promotion, sir? Yeah, sure, I'll take it.
I'd like one. Not today. Let's not go crazy. Maybe
Boy. I know. Well, I have a 16-year-old kid, and the past 10 years, the stuff I've experienced in family court, boy, as a guy, it's I've got some stories.
Tons of equality there.
Oh, definitely. To the point where last year my kid said, I don't want to go home with my mother. I want to live with dad. And a female judge is like, too bad.
Yep.
Jesus Christ.
It's pretty horrible over here. Not sure.
I mean, Greta Gerwig. Sorry, go ahead, Mahler.
I was going to say, how would a film called Ken be received, where we make loads of jokes about how women have no idea what it's like to even exist in this world because they don't know what it's like to work the hardest jobs, to have the highest workplace accidents, to have the highest suicide rates, to have the highest homeless rates. And I think that people will be like, all right, calm down. There are problems that everyone experiences. You know, they wouldn't be like, you're right, this is a fun movie. Fun points getting made. Fun. Like,
well, I mean, again, you could even go to the point of making a movie where like all the women are portrayed as useless, hysterical, empty-headed bimbos that can't do anything for themselves and get constantly like mocked and belittled by the guys. And when the inevitable firestorm of protest erupts, you just say, well, it wasn't made for you.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't made for you, honey. So you can't complain. It's like, yeah, is that going to work? I don't think it will somehow. So
I mean, it's also an
funny
argument.
how that door it only ever swings one way.
It really does.
Starts to get a little bit tiresome after you've seen it about 600 times, you know?
Or when you're told like you're looking too deep into this movie that's made for women, and it's like, but if I had something positive to say about it, it's totally fine that I'm analyzing it like I am.
I think that's
hilarious.
I think that's really condescending to women. It's like, don't look too deep in the movie for women. Like, okay,
Yeah.
Fine, I guess.
It is.
The argument is always, because this is always what happens, right? When you make a valid point about something and they don't want you to make it, they'll be like, well, why do you care so much?
Oh my God.
Why do you care? It's like, well, we got what we wanted, so now that you're starting to question it, why do you care? It's always like that. But it's like, if it's something that they want, they're happy to question it all day long and complain about it. They care if it's something that they want to get done. But when you're questioning something that they've achieved or some battle that they've won, it's always, why do you care so much? It's like, well, you care. You cared enough to try and get this movie made and support it and stuff. Okay, we're entitled to criticize it too.
I've seen different people there's loads of arguments over this film about which parts are serious, which parts are jokes, which parts are satire, which parts are trying to make fun of blah blah blah. And like, the speech she gives that ends with her saying Barbie is fascist. Like, a lot of people, I think, have concluded, like, that's obviously she's just trying to rile Barbie up. None of that's actually, like, anything the film is trying to make a point about. But I think, like, Jay Longbone was looking into Greta Gerwig's points about the film, and even she was like, well, some points are made there that are pretty interesting, don't you think? And it's just like...
Yeah, they don't purposely... They can hide behind that satire, but we're seeing that word fascist come up a lot in entertainment, and that's not an accident. That's
calling Barbie fascist. I feel like we're
Batman and Barbie are fascists now.
She calls her a fascist right at the end of calling her everything else, like saying your body image is, you've got all these body image problems and blah 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 blah, and then she calls her a fascist. So if you're going to say that is satire, that's a joke. Don't tack it on to what is clearly a very serious critique of Barbie.
I think we're facing the reverse issue of something that happens all the time, which is that someone says something so like fucking stupid, but that they believe in it, that we're all like, God, that could be parody and it'd be indistinguishable. And now people are seeing what they believe is parody because it's so stupid. This has to be parody. That it's like, guys, I think some of it is like legit.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? It's like when you desperately want to believe in the movie, you will look for reasons to justify the most retarded choices that they made in it, in order to say, well, it's not a stupid choice. It doesn't like contradict the entire like ethos of the film. It's subtle satire. It's poking fun at this or that or whatever. It's like, maybe it's not. Maybe like the filmmakers are just fucking idiots. And this is not anywhere near as intelligent and multi-layered as you seem to think it is.